Hello again and welcome back to the PhatPhish Guitar Studio. I'm Dave, and in this video we're going to be talking a bit about practicing scales. Now I think if you're serious about getting better as a guitarist and as better as a musician, something you do need to do is practice scales. But you need to remember it's just a means to an end. It's a bit like learning your times table. It's something that you do as an exercise to get some basic skills down, and then you take that and you apply it in what you do. So what I'm going to run through in this video is a few ideas for how you can basically put a little bit of structure into your scale-based practice, help you sort of put together exercises that you can do, either something you can do as a little bit of something as a warm-up, or something as a more structured part of your daily practice routine, or now and again if you just want to sit and have a complete scale-based workout and spend an hour or two running through scale-based exercises, and that you can perhaps do this sort of thing in its entirety. Oh, and before we start, guitar of the day today is this guitar. I actually built this one myself. It's an ash-bodied thin line T-type with Seymour Duncan hot rail for telly pickups, and sounds like this. Okay, so let's get started with the exercises. We'll start with the major scale. Let's start with C major. I'm going to be using sort of 1 finger per fret type of boxes, but once you get familiar with this sort of exercise, it's something you can adapt if you want and come up with more extended scale boxes. But just using a 1 finger per fret type of approach, let's get a copy of PhatPhish, dial in a C major scale, and you'll see something that looks like this. And you can break it down to a 1 finger per fret type of scale box based around root note on the 8th fret on the bottom E string. So gets you something that looks like this. And we can just play this through as a basic scale. So that's the basic scale, up and down over 2 octaves. Now what we want to try and do with these exercises is play the same thing at every position on the neck. Now you could just start off at the 12th fret and work your way down, or start at the 1st fret and work your way up. But for a bit of variety we're going to work around the circle of fifths. Circle of fifths basically means for each scale that you play, so we started off with C major, you play the 5th degree of the scale, so you've got C, D, E, F, G. G is the 5th degree, so we're going to use that as the root note of the next major scale that we play. I've talked about the circle of fifths, I think, in another tutorial. I'll put a link to that in the information section below. It explains a little bit more about what the circle of fifths is and applications for it. We're just going to use this basically as a way of navigating around the fingerboard today, so we're going to be taking scales and moving around in intervals of a fifth. So the first exercise was just playing the C major scale straight up and down across 2 octaves. We'll now move down to the 3rd fret where there's a G on the bottom E string, and we'll use that as a root note and play the G major scale up and down through 2 octaves. Now don't forget, if you're playing this sort of thing, it's not about speed, it's about accuracy. Ideally you should be playing along with a metronome. Set the metronome to a pace where you can play comfortably along, and over time as you play these exercises more often, crank the metronome up a little bit, get a bit faster, but never try to play faster than you can accurately. Over time your dexterity and your accuracy will improve, and you'll be able to take the metronome up to faster speeds and still play accurately. Each note that you play should last as long as all of the other ones. You shouldn't be playing, it should be even type of thing. And the metronome's a really useful tool to help you with that. And we can continue the exercise played C major, played G major, moving up a perfect fifth from G takes us to D, so we can play D major starting from here at the 10th fret on the bottom E string. The fifth of D is A, so we can go down to the 5th fret on the bottom E string and play the A major scale across 2 octaves based around there. A major, E major, B major, F sharp major, and so on, working your way around the circle of fifths. So that's one basic exercise, and you work your way through the circle of fifths. Eventually you'll end up at F major, and then that takes you back to C major, which is where you started from. And when you've done that, you'll have played all of those, basically the major scale, at every fret on the neck. If it's a scale that you're not familiar with, then as you're playing each note, either say out loud or just think, what note and name are you actually playing? So 1 is C, 2 is D, 3 is E, 4 is F, 5 is G, and so on as you go through the scale. And that'll help you to get familiar not just with the sounds of the scale and the way that the notes of the scale kind of fall under your fingers, but also get you familiar with the names of the notes in the scale as well. And having played the major scale right the way around the neck, you can repeat the exercise with other scales that you know and you want to get familiar with. So you could do that with all the modes. So you played major scale, effectively you've played the Ionian mode. Do the same thing with the Dorian mode. Start, say, at D Dorian on the 10th fret, then come from D Dorian to A Dorian to E Dorian to B Dorian, and so on, and take the Dorian mode through all 12 positions on the neck through the circle of fifths. Same again for the Phrygian mode, Lydian, Mixolydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. So you've got 7 modes in all 12 positions as basic scales. Do the same thing, minor scales, and actually you can play with the natural minor, the harmonic minor, the melodic minor, the modes of those scales. Whatever it is that you particularly want to focus on practicing, those are the scales you should be looking to include in the exercises. And having done the exercise through just with basic scales, look to build some patterns from it. I'll show you a couple of examples here, but I'm sure you can come up with your own ideas and kind of take this and do your own sort of thing. Now, a good basic example is using alternate notes. So starting off with our C major scale example, starting at C at the 8th fret on the bottom E string, we'll go through the scale, and instead of just playing the degrees 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on, and play alternate notes. We'll start on a 1, miss 2 and hit 3, then we'll go to 2, miss 3 and hit 4, then 3, skip 4 and hit 5, then 4, miss 5 and hit 6, 5, miss 6 and hit 7, 6, missing 7 and up to 8. Yeah. And you can play the same thing going down. And again, play these along with a metronome at a pace that you're sort of comfortable with, where you can maintain the accuracy, and as you get more proficient, increase the speed of the metronome, increase the speed that you're playing at. There's an exercise playing alternate notes, and you can do the same thing with that. Play around the circle of fifths, starting say to C major, G major, D major, A major, and so on, until you've played that exercise in all 12 positions. And you can play the same sort of approach using alternate notes type patterns, and repeat the exercise, say, with all the major scale modes, or with major minor scales, natural minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, and the modes thereof, up and down the neck. So as you can see already, there's lots and lots of different combinations. Now, another useful pattern to try for this exercise is just sequential notes from the scales, taking like 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So starting with C major, you would be playing 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, and so on across the scale, ascending and descending. Then take that pattern, move it by perfect fifths, so from C major to G major, play the pattern G major, take the D major, play the pattern, and so on, going around the circle of fifths right the way across the neck, playing all 12 scales. And you can play the same sort of approach, that same pattern, on modes of the major scale, on the minor scales, the modes of the minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, and so on. So you've got lots and lots of combinations. Now if you sit down and you do all of those in one go, it'll take you a fair old while, particularly if you're not like a real shredder and perhaps you've got the metronome set a little bit slower. That doesn't matter. You need to play at a speed that's comfortable. You don't need to do all of this in one go. If you're really motivated and you really want to get better at scales, then being able to sit down and do a whole bunch of exercises in one go and spend an hour or two or more. As long as you're not bored and you're motivated and you're playing well and you're playing precisely, that's great. More often though, you're not going to have the luxury of having that much practice time. There's other things that you're going to want to practice. Practicing chords, actually playing stuff as well, and putting your theory and your exercises actually into a practical sort of context, and that's cool. Just take little bits out of this sort of full kit bag of scale-based exercises and come up with things that you can just use, say, as a warm-up. Your warm-up exercise might be to play the major, the minor, harmonic minor, melodic minor, whatever, around the circle of fifths, up and down the neck a few times. Or you might say, right, each start of each day, as part of your practice routine, you're going to do one cycle of these exercises with basic scales, alternate patterns, and 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4 type patterns, and play that just for the major scale or just for the minor scale. Perhaps something that's relevant for what you want to include in your practice routine for that particular day. Take bits out of this whole thing and adapt it and use it for as part of your practice routine. You don't need to sit down and play this whole bunch of exercises in their entirety every day. You don't have time. To be honest, there are better uses of your practice time than just running up and down scales like this. I think you do need to practice scales, but they're a means to an end. They're about getting your fingers familiar with where the notes fall, so it feels natural. So when you do come to play and you do come to improvise over chord progressions, your fingers will find the notes of the scale naturally because you practiced. You've got the basic motor skills, so you can play smoothly, you can play evenly. You're not tripping over yourself. You've got the accuracy there that you need. Now, talking about using a metronome, another useful tool for this is PhatPhish itself. As well as showing you where the scales are, you can also use the play along tool. So you could set up using the settings. You can set a tempo that you want to play back to, and then use the playback tools and play the scale, and you can play along with it. So say I wanted to play the 1, 2, 3 exercise around A major, I would dial in the A major scale like this. I would use the settings to get a tempo that I'm comfortable with, pick the pattern that I want to play, so just an ascending scale over 2 octaves like this, and then hit the play button and it'll play through. And that gives me something that I can play along with, and as I get more comfortable with the scale, I can increase the tempo and so on. There's some basic patterns built into PhatPhish. There's also the riff builder or the pattern builder, which you can use to build your own patterns. There's a whole load in there. There's some separate tutorials on the YouTube channel about that, so I'll put a link in the information section down there. There's some tutorials that show you a little bit more about using the pattern builder and how you can use PhatPhish as a play along aid to help you with the speed and the accuracy in what you're doing. And that's one of the main reasons that I designed and built PhatPhish. It's not just to show you where the notes are, it's to help you practice them, and the playback tool is a really useful thing for that, because it gives you a reference and you can control the speed and use it to help build up your proficiency with scales and patterns and so on. Okay, so that's that. Plenty for you to be thinking about and incorporating into your practice. As always, if you like the video, please click like. If you really liked it, please click subscribe or leave a comment below, all the different options that YouTube gives you. And if you've got a question or a suggestion for a future video, then if you go here, there's a form you can fill in and submit a question, and I'll try and get around to answering it as soon as I can in a future video. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.